I don't think there is another place that is as peaceful and quiet. There's a certain serenity about it. And I don't think that I'm the only person that feels this.
On a strip of sand at the far eastern edge of North Carolina, an island town sits empty. A silent reminder of a once thriving community.
I was actually the last baby born on the island, one of the last children to go to school, and my family were the last ones to leave, which was my sister Marion and my Aunt Elma Dixon, which left in 1971.
No one lives here now, at least not permanently. But the town lives on in the memories of those who once called it home. And many more think enough of this place to make a pilgrimage here every 2 years. They come from hundreds of miles to remember, to reminisce about the town called Portsmouth.
Here we go, 1, 2, 3.
In colonial times, Ocracoke Inlet, despite its shallowness, was an important shipping route for a colony with few roads. Portsmouth Island was used as a lightering port for goods coming in and out of North Carolina. Life on the island was never easy. There was no electricity. All material goods had to come by boat from Ocracoke. But at its peak, Portsmouth boasted a population of over 600. Eventually, shifting sands and changing times began to take their toll. In 1846, a hurricane created Oregon Inlet and deepened the inlet at Hatteras. Shipping gradually shifted away from Ocracoke Inlet. The U.S. life-saving station was decommissioned by the Coast Guard after World War II. The post office, which also was the general store and community gathering place, closed in 1959. After 119 years of service.
A lot of people say that the people left because of hurricanes. That is not true. There was a few people moved away after the 1933 hurricane, but the real end of Portsmouth was the school closing. Well, the state would not put a school unless there were 3 children. And the last year I went to school, there were 3. And so 2 of those children belonged to a Coast Guardman, and he got transferred, which took those 2 away, so there was no more school. So what was left was the older people, and they stayed until they died. So it was a gradual end to this village, really, to the island.
By the 1960s, there were just 3 permanent residents on Portsmouth, Miss Dominique's relatives, and a man named Henry Piggott.
Henry was descended from slaves, with the lightering trade, which was basically unloading a whole ship, putting it on another ship, or putting it in warehouses here on Portsmouth. Lots of slaves were used in that trade. After the Civil War, most of the black families did not come back. But his family came back. So he became the caretaker as the last male descendant of anyone here. Everybody else had moved off island. The last 2 ladies, Marion Gray Babb and Miss Addie, her aunt, he made sure they had everything they needed. And it was because Henry was still here that they could make a living, could stay over here.
Henry Piggott died in 1971. He's buried near the church, within sight of his house, in a small graveyard. With his passing and their lifeline gone, Miss Marion and Miss Elma reluctantly moved off the island. The deserted village and island are now part of the National Seashore. A dedicated group of volunteers helps preserve some of the buildings. But people keep coming back to Portsmouth, including folks who never lived here at all, or even knew someone who did.
Good morning, good morning. Good to see you.
Okay, I'm one of Henry's people.
Yes,
Remember
sir.
You were
I remember you from
talking
2 years
with-
ago.
Right.
Good.
Pleasure.
They don't mind the 5-mile boat ride from Ocracoke and the half-mile walk through the marsh grass to the village.
This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior.
What a wonderful sight this is for me today to see so many of you folks. All first-time attendees today. Please stand. Wow, see what I mean, Bob? It's amazing. It's unbelievable. Welcome and please come back.
This year, over 400 people barely fit into the large tent outside the church. And for one lovely moment in time, the songs ring out and the spirit soars here on Portsmouth Island, just like in the old days.
I step back upon the shore, back to times and folks before, islanders and mailboat days, clear the misty haze on my island home.
This is a unique place in North Carolina. It has disappeared in most other places. This is what makes Portsmouth so unique and such a wonderful and enjoyable place, is because a lot of what is here now is what was here 50 years ago, and it is unchanged. And I can come out in the afternoon and watch the afternoon sun, and you can just see the life here in the village. You hear the wind through the rushes. You hear the birds, and you can think about the lives that the people lived.
Portsmouth town will never die, and will seldom change. No roads or wells, small sandy lanes, cisterns caught the rain.
They were living a lifestyle that my grandparents and my parents as children were living, you know, with no electricity and outhouses, using dairy houses to cool the food, catching rainwater off the roofs. It just takes you back to those times and gives you a touchstone of your roots. And I think you don't have to be from Portsmouth to appreciate Portsmouth because of that.
On my island.
No matter where I've lived, and my husband was in service, no matter where I've lived, no matter where I've tried to make a home, which I always did, no matter where, but when I speak of home, I think I'm speaking of here.